Welcome to Truro for the enthronement of the Right Reverend Michael Ball as Bishop. Already the cathedral is packed with clergy and lay representatives of every parish in the county, with civic dignitaries and visiting bishops, and now Bishop Michael's procession makes its way through the centre of the city to the west door of the cathedral, where he will be greeted by the Dean, the Very Reverend David Sherlock, and the chapter of the cathedral.
Right Reverend Father in God, we greet you and bid you welcome in the name of Christ.
Mr. Dean, I thank you for your welcome, and I ask for the prayers of you all, that I may be a faithful pastor and true father in God, and that together we may serve and honor our Father in heaven, and dedicate ourselves to the task of evangelism.
Welcome, Bishop Michael. Welcome. Welcome in the name of the Lord. Had you been present here in Truro Cathedral a few months ago, you would have been at the service during which our new bishop, Michael, was enthroned, and you've just seen the start of that service. During it, we were able to hear two very important features of the cathedral life, the organ and the choir. Music has always been a very significant part of cathedral worship and Christian worship in general. But a cathedral has the resources to deploy which make for a wonderful mixture of worship during which the traditional music of the church is heard to its best effect. But this tradition here in Truro is, I'm sorry to say, considerably under threat, because we simply haven't got the financial resources to maintain it as we would wish. There are two factors here. First of all, the organ. We have here one of the finest organs in the world, universally recognized as such. It was created just over 100 years ago by Henry Willis, Father Willis, as he's so often known. And this organ has served us extremely well over 100 years because organs like that are built to last, but they don't last forever. And so we're now faced with having to have a major overhaul of the instrument. And it comes as something of a shock to know that that sort of job isn't done for a few hundred or even a few £1,000. It's going to cost around about £250,000.
For all the complexity and sophistication of all this technology in the base of the Truro organ, we're now reduced to having to boil kitchen kettles to keep it going, to produce a bit of steam and humidity to counteract the effects of overheating, drying out of 100-year-old timbers, and so on. The organ was built 100 years ago by the finest organ builder of the time, Father Willis, in London. And it's survived for those 100 years. a great deal of the leather work, and organs use an enormous amount of leather, from fairly sturdy stuff such as this on these bellows, of which there are half a dozen in the organ, through to quite fine paper-thin material such as might be used for ladies' gloves. And all of this is now dire need of replacement. It's suffered both from atmospheric pollution, although that's not too bad here in Truro, but more from the effects of drying out and desiccation. Other problems that the organ is now suffering relate to the mechanism. A lot of it, again, still dates from the original time. But 30 years ago, the organ console, which previously was up here buried in amongst all these bellows and bits and pieces, 30 years ago the console was moved downstairs, closer to the choir, and the organ connected to it by electric cables. For 30 years, those electric cables and the relays that they operate have been going on and off perhaps 100 times in every piece of music, maybe more, every day. All of that time, little switches switching themselves on and off, and of course they're now becoming rather tired, quite apart from being outdated. The application of modern solid-state technology without moving parts and so on will produce a result which will better that of 30 years ago. The pipework. The pipes range in size from 30-odd feet long and 2 or 3 feet square, through to tiny pipes, smaller than pencils and only a fraction of an inch long. Those have been tuned and have been standing up there all this time, and although they're not in bad order because they're beautifully made to begin with, again they could do with the care and attention of the 30 or 40 craftsmen back in London. The organ will do the return trip, made it up here 100 years ago, go back to London now, where each part will be given loving care and attention so we can put, we hope, the whole thing back to the state that it was when it was first brought.
That's one thing. The other thing is the choir, the choral foundation. We've had a choir here for all the 100 years of the cathedral's life. But choirs come rather expensive as well these days, partly because we have to pay for the education of our choristers. It's round about £60,000 a year that we need to maintain the music of the cathedral. We can and have in the past been able to find most of this money, but it's becoming increasingly difficult because of the inevitable inflation. And so we want to set up a choral endowment fund which will guarantee that the superb singing of our choir, which you'll be hearing shortly, can continue into the foreseeable future. And that, we reckon, needs about another £250,000 spent. We will endow the fund in such a way that each year some of the income can go towards the other money that the Dean and Chapter are able to provide to make sure that this tradition continues.
The first of the team events is the choristers' tug-of-war between the two sides of the cathedral choir. One side is called decani, the other is called cantoris.
And Paul!
These then are the two major things that we have to try to do in this appeal. To repair and bring into full use once again the superb Willis organ, and then secondly, to endow our choir for its future life.
Will you please help us to preserve this wonderful musical heritage? If you are a member of an association, you may wish to sponsor an event to raise the money yourselves. Or, if you even wish, you can have it covenanted for tax purposes. This will bring more money into the appeal at no extra cost to yourselves. Whatever you feel you can give, will you please send it to me, John Henry, The Appeal Director, Truro Cathedral Music Foundation Appeal, 21 Old Bridge Street, Truro, TR1 2AH. Thank you.